Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
And look at this crime thing going on. And you got these unmanly punks out here. They gunned down this rapper, and they shot up the place doing a drive-by. A couple of days later, when some people were having a memorial service, there's just some unmanly punks. They're reflecting what their great-great-great-grandmamas were up to when they used to pour battery acid on their neighbors, because the neighbor looked at an ex-boyfriend a year and a half before. And by the way, the great-great-great-great-great-grandmama is not quite 70 years old.
I'm glad you brought up the Young Dolph situation. What's your take on the whole thing? Was that a professional hit?
I don't know.
A neighborhood beat?
It's the third time he'd been shot at. He got wounded before.
Yeah, in Hollywood. Yeah.
And let me say this. Personally, there's a certain black singer of international note who lives here. He owes me $5,000 cash. He ripped it off and coked it up. And the last two times I've encountered him have been out at the Memphis airport. He literally turned around and ran. Now, if I was the wrong kind of person, which I'm not, no telling what would happen to him. A lot of people would say $5K is worth taking somebody out on principle, but to me, it's not. I made that in about 10 minutes worth of work the last job I had. 10 minutes is not worth going to prison, or not worth taking somebody's life, but for some people it is. I don't know. But the other thing is you live in Memphis, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And if you're eligible to purchase a firearm in Tennessee, you can carry it without a permit. So I always wonder about people who are in the public eye and they go around and they're not armed, or you don't have a security crew, or even just riding with somebody, with one of your partners. He's not your bodyguard, but you each watch each other's six. So
well, you know, Judge, like the streets been talking, and there's a lot of stuff on social media, but they say he did have a gun on him. You know, it was his time.
Well, yeah, but then that gets to the other thing. You mean you're a grown man in your 30s and you haven't taught yourself situational awareness? In other words, your radar keeps going. You check your six all the time. You don't turn your back on a plate glass window in a public place.
Well, you know, also there's a footage of a guy that's supposed to be, I guess, a friend firing back at the guys, the Mercedes.
That may have
happened. What was he doing? I'm trying to figure out.
It may have happened, and it's been suppressed. See, on a homicide case, there are a whole lot of people that don't get brought in because the detectives say, oh, he's not a bad guy. No point in putting him through all this hell. And Memphis, by the way, has one of the best homicide squads in the whole of the United States. That's why they brought that series here, 48 Hours, to Memphis, because this homicide squad, there are a lot of black folk that have street experience and a connection to this community, and they can get out in it and get information. Several times the FBI has just screwed something up. Like one time they got a whole bunch of confiscated guns they had in an unsecured van got stolen. They brought in Memphis detectives and they got all the guns back in 48 hours. That's because they can get into it. And I know some of them. And they grew up in the hood.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been past 48 hours now, I would say, just about.
Yeah,
they got to be.
I mean, but I'm just saying, sometimes, let me tell you this. Most of the time, homicide cases are unsolvable unless the offender, alleged offender, is known to be acquainted with the alleged victim. Otherwise, somebody ran a big mouth off. He was trying to impress some junkie babe who turned him in because she didn't want to do some time on a drug case. I had 4 or 5 really dumb fools in my courtroom. They pulled off a drive-by, shot and killed 3 people and wounded 4 others, and this has been 25, 26 years ago. You know how they got caught?
How?
They Xeroxed the articles in the commercial appeal and signed them and were passing them out. Yeah, man, check out what we did.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Judge, the problem with this case, Judge, I'm gonna be honest, my people from there. I sometimes I go there about once or twice by Airways and catch them. Cause my folks live in Bunker
I know
Hill,
where the
right
place
behind.
is.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, just for the people out there. And what I'm saying was weird about the whole thing is that you got the police precinct right across down the street, you got cameras everywhere. I think these were some outside hitters. These ain't no neighborhood people. These outsiders. They
Yeah,
came in
maybe.
here and did their thing.
And by the
These some
way,
outside hitters.
they kept talking about his Lamborghini in the parking
What
lot.
was that,
Then
Judge?
it
Tell me what it
became
is
his
exactly.
Corvette, but what it is it's a camouflage Camaro.
Okay.
See how they
See, I
want
know
to
I can't
talk
trust the
about?
news. I don't know what the bank is.
You
Just
don't.
confusing.
They get the information so wrong so often. I'm sure he's a fine young man. I never knew him. I didn't
Well,
listen to the.
I'm a fan of his music. You know what? I tell you how I became a fan. I don't agree with everything, but I remember like about 7 years ago, I was going to Ferguson and Baltimore, and they'll ask me where I'm from. I said I'm from Memphis. And man, we love Young Dolph, man. You know Young? I said, who, Dolphin? No, Young Dolph, man. Like Freddie Gray friends would tell me, man, we love Memphis cats, man. We love Yo Gotti and Young. We love y'all Memphis guys. See, Memphis is interesting because people in Memphis don't understand how powerful brand Memphis is everywhere else.
No, they
When I
don't.
go to a place like Los Angeles or New York, I tell people I'm from Memphis because there's people from Memphis connected that's doing amazing things
And
in
see,
these so-called
that's
communities.
why I let them talk me into running for mayor in 2023. This
Yes, sir.
town needs to be actualized, motivated, and activated.
Yes,
There is
sir.
no reason why black folks should not have a jewel in America known as
Right.
Memphis. It's right
That's
where the
right.
main waterway crosses the main
Everything runs through here,
highway.
like you said, Judge.
Everything's
Everything
got to come
goes through
through
here.
here.
Yeah.
And these jackasses that we put in, these shysters that don't know what it is to represent a constituency, they're crooks, most of them, not all of them. Some of them are decent and honest. But we don't get representation, and the money goes to somebody that just keeps getting it, getting it, getting it, getting it. And the game is zoning variances from city council or county commission, appropriation of the tax dollars to buy the material, buy the land, and pay for it being constructed. And then this group being able to operate it and return 4 to 6% of their net profit to the city or the county. And you see, smart accountants zero that out. So there's no net profit to get a percentage of. So we just pay them for it. And it's like they get richer and richer. And meanwhile, some people down there, they get their egos stroked and they get a little pocket change from doing what they do. And it's bad, bad, bad. And see, we need to
Yeah.
man up. I know how it works. The other thing is your mayor can't walk down in the majority of the places he represents without the police escorting. Otherwise, somebody's likely to take him out.
I gotta actually, Judge, you a public figure and you're a guy that's well respected in our community, in our neighborhoods. Young Dolph was well respected where he was from, and he was giving back a lot to the community.
Yeah, I know.
So,
But you
I mean,
see,
like, what you say? Like, people say he shouldn't have been in the neighborhood. He
in
should have
other
moved out.
words,
What would you say
they
about that?
tried to kill me before. That was even one thing when I had that James Earl Ray case. There were 5 clowns with some heavy equipment tried to break in the house. We had a shootout. About 30-some shots got exchanged. And
Wow.
half of somebody's ear was on my window sill in the morning. when Director Renfrey and another detective came by and we did a quiet investigation. Somebody had turned the tapes off about dispatcher's recording devices off about 35, 40 minutes before this went down, and about the same after. There were no hospital reports or anything like that. And there were heavy blood trails front and back from the 5 that were involved. I mean, but you see, if you put yourself in the public eye, you cannot model yourself on Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all of these nonviolent types who got killed and taken out. You got to be prepared to take somebody to Valhalla or send somebody to Valhalla. Maybe they'll get you, but at least make it costly. And watch what's going on around you.
Well, like with the thing with the Young Dolph thing, I would say this is that like them last 2 instances where he was shot at, it was like allegedly people from a rival artist camp, like Yo Gotti's camp, was connected to that. Like the 100 shots at his SUV that was bulletproof in Charlotte. The van that allegedly did a drive-by was registered in the name of the rapper known as Black Youngster, but he said that his identity was compromised. And then in Hollywood, when he was shot 3 times, and I don't see how he survived that. That was point blank range, getting shot 3 times. It was
That's
some
why
guys allegedly connected to Yo
when
Gotti.
you're trying to take somebody out, you don't
Mm,
just shoot them once, twice, 3 times. This is not a movie.
right.
Most of the homicides that I've had where I had 42 first-degree murder cases I tried as a defense lawyer where they demanded a death penalty, and there were a bunch more where they just wanted life. And I don't know how many I presided over. Typically, one person has killed the other, but he doesn't know it because there's no reaction. You shoot
Right.
somebody, they don't go, oh, like they do in the movies. They just stand there, keep shooting back. They're already fatally injured. Real professionals, if they're doing something, they'll say, hey, man, check me. You see anything? No, man, you're clean. In other words, a lot of times, some of these people have been shot multiple occasions, and they know that in the heat of things, they often don't feel that they got hit, didn't feel it when they got hit. So, yeah, 3 times. See, unless you shoot somebody with a rifle, serious rifle, 2, 3 times with some pistol caliber or an AR. AR isn't but a 22. In the military, they're more concerned about carrying lots of ammunition because they have a base of fire where they lay down covering fire and they want to keep the enemy's head down while another group maneuvers to take the ground and do a final assault on the objective. So it's 22. And in the military, they call that a mouse gun. In the NAM, they called it a Matty Mattel Special. And it's a question of whether that is adequate. You shoot a deer with a 30-06 and he'll run 150 yards before he piles up. In most states, an AR, which is a 223 or a 5.56, is too small to legally shoot a deer with. It's only suitable for varmints, rodents, and stuff like that, ground squirrels and things like that, gophers. So unless you shoot somebody with a pretty large size weapon, hell, there have been situations over in the sand pile recently where people got shot with a 2 or 3 times with a 50 caliber Browning. That's a 50 caliber Browning machine gun round. And they still kept moving. So humans can be fairly hard to kill if they've got the adrenaline up and they've got that mindset. I feel no pain.
Yeah, but with him it's interesting because they said the last time it was a fatal time, people let like 50 shots fired at him, 50 rounds. So like you said, they was a little bit
Then how many
excessive.
times did they hit him?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like they keeping everything hush hush, but there's photos of a guy that's supposed to be one of his partners trying to answer back at the guys in the
I'm
Mercedes, but
saying that's a good thing. See, in Tennessee, you not only have a right to self-defense, that right extends to the defense of third parties. So if somebody was present on the scene and somebody came and tried to gun down this young man, and they saw it. Under Tennessee law, they would be entitled to use deadly force against the perpetrators. It's the charge to the jury says self-defense, but it reads defense of self or a third party. So you can defend a third party like it was yourself. That, by the way, is why police shoot somebody. Police don't have any more rights to self-defense or use of deadly force than an ordinary citizen has. They have the same rights. An ordinary citizen has the same rights to use of deadly force as a cop. There is one difference. If it's a cop and it involves a felony or an escape from a felony, it can be a reasonable suspicion that a felony has been committed. For an ordinary citizen, the standard changes to a felony that, quote, has in fact been committed. Landmark case in America about the use of police force against a felon or a person suspected of it comes out of Memphis. It was a 1974 case. I was here in Memphis when it happened, a lawyer. And what was going on is somebody was escaping from the police. He was climbing a chain link fence. Cop ran up to him, stopped, calmly unholstered his revolver, took careful aim, and shot him in the back when he was at the top of the fence and killed him. Well, that went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The case came back, I think it was 1979. And basically the ruling was unless the person constituted a threat to the officer or to third parties, he was not entitled to use deadly force. So that case came out of Memphis. I mean, when I was the prosecutor, I mean, I'd go out with the cops sometimes and I'd run into other ones. And, you know, we had a couple of standoffs. And some of the cops would laugh, said, "Don't you know who that is? This case is going to be in front of him on Monday. And you sitting up there threatening to shoot him, and he's got his 357. We'll shoot you." You know, cops have problems with each other. And sometimes what happens in the locker rooms is not cool. We had a time around here some years ago where black cops were not answering calls for help from white ones and vice versa.
I mean, that's why it's good to talk to you about this history, especially being the first black prosecutor in Shelby County, Tennessee, and Memphis.
Well, first black prosecutor for the city of Memphis.
Yes.
Arthur Bennett was one, and he was for the county, but they used to have concurrent, well, same cases, separate jurisdictions.
Oh, it's good to know that. You know, you got a history. Because people
ran the public defender's office in Memphis back in the 70s. That's before the city lost the felony jurisdiction and criminal jurisdiction and just started handling traffic stuff.
Okay, like I gotta ask you this. I mean, as a person who has very much of knowledge of the law, what would be some of the first things you would have done in terms of what happened to Young Dolph? How would you like secure the crime scene, or
no, what you have done? They did an excellent job.
Okay,
like I'm saying, Memphis homicide for MPD has one of the highest reps in the country.
I mean, the homicide rate is high here. It's ridiculous.
I'm talking about the homicide bureau
good to the close the
police
case, right?
department. But
I'll say this.
The thing about that, to show you that, I had long discussion with retired Captain Tommy Smith, who was over the Memphis homicide squad, and they were adamant that James Earl Ray did not shoot Dr. Martin Luther King. For some reason, the corrupt district attorney's office was trying to throw everybody off the scent and insisted on going after James Earl Ray. So, I mean, there is that thing.
You bring up James Earl Ray, I'm thinking about, November 22nd will be the 58th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. And he had protection, he had security, and it didn't do him any good.
I know. If somebody wants to get you, they'll get you. Look at what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby shot him with the press, the cameras, the police in the police station.
But he was friendly with the police, from my understanding. He had a relationship with some
Yes,
of the officers there. They
yes,
allowed him in.
yes. See, here's one thing that too many people don't get about what we do. We're dealing with human beings in the criminal justice system. Other humans are dealing with human beings in the criminal justice system. Ordinary people, too many of them act like nobody can be trusted. Most people can be trusted. Some can't. And the fact of the matter is, human nature being what it is, sometimes you have to depend on other people. And that's why we have high appreciation of courage and bravery. It's in the middle of an ice age, 25,000 years ago. Europe or Africa, doesn't make any difference where. Asia, Pacific Islands, Australia. You're after some big beast that can crush you. And you got to depend on one of your homeboys to have your six to get you out of a mess. And see, we sacrificed ourselves for the good of somebody else. That's called altruism. You went out and you hunted the lions to keep them off of the village. See, what we look at today, we get all freaked out off of just ordinary adversity. White supremacy is nothing but a form of adversity. You know how we used to handle adversity that was called Simba on the Serengeti Plains? We had our 13-year-old boys as a rite of passage go kill Simba with a wooden spear with no iron head on it. That's how you became a man. You had to go kill your lion.
Wow.
Now, look at how punked out we are now.
Well, you know, okay.
God, we have to protect all the children from being bullied. See, handling a bully is a rite of passage. You screwed up the courage to bust him in his mouth or in his jaw or in the eye or in the nose.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, you know, even when I got to get back to Young Dolph, for the fact that Judge, you and him probably would have got along pretty well because
Maybe we would have.
I mean, I know not even on his music, but the fact that he believed in black masculinity. He had a young, beautiful family. His partner, his female partner, has a foundation called Black Men Deserve to Grow Old.
Yes.
So they believe in black masculinity.
It's
unfortunate.
Black youth, and I understand it. Look at me and you.
Yes, sir.
I hooked up with you because you're doing the kind of thing that I admire and promote. My mantra about manhood is about promoting manhood and protecting womanhood. I said it all the time. Men should give guidance and women should give advisement.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting because we allow the powers that be to dictate our relationships and how we view each other, especially through the media.
I don't. That's why so many connected with or reliant upon the media hate my guts because, see, me and you, we don't have the excuse, oh, well, you know, it was about the money. You know, I had to do what I had to do. No, hell no. What you had to do has nothing to do about money. It's got to do with principle, purpose, and cause. See, young black folk, young white folk don't have a cause. The young white ones have a new cause. Well, they've got it again. It's called Save the Animals, you know, ecology. But whereas they do this thing with Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and you hear these sad commercials, you know, poor Al, he is confined in the kennel and chained in the cold, and he will never know love unless you send in $19.95 a month to the ASPCA so someone can show Al love. Well, see, Al doesn't have to have 4 legs. He can have 2. And the colored become the adopted animals for the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in America. And that includes the 2-year-old cattle, the colored folk. black folk, Negroes.
So yeah,
Getting off of
people
the
like
cause, but what do
yeah.
we have? None. We have a slave mindset. It's white supremacy is holding us down, but that's just adversity. Because if men hadn't done what they did over the many thousands of years that we've been here, 250,000 since we've been anatomically modern, and before that, our ancestors going back about 3.5, 4, 5 million when they seemed to have switched over to being bipedal. They looked like chimps, but they walked upright, started making tools, and now we find out chimpanzees make stone tools. So, it's a primate characteristic, but we have been about some things for a long time, but we forget, and we have conquered adversity. So now everything is endangered unless we put it on a protected species list, and then we have to protect it from poachers. But you see, there are things that ate us for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a midnight snack. Humans lived inside of a real, live, ongoing 24/7, 52 horror movie. For real. Now that it's safe for the most part, we don't have to worry about something eating us. We got to worry about each other because we're getting evidence on the population front. We still have to have these points and principles so we don't kill each other too readily. There are always going to be sickos who will kill you. There are always mentally ill folk, but we don't want that level of mental illness to keep ramping up.
But I mean, you guys are talking about being, predatory businesses, warfare is about survival, is about fight. But I mean, you look at you deal with the industry, Hollywood, and also Young Dolph dealing with the music industry business, which is cutthroat, and people claiming that he was very like an independent artist who had a distribution deal with a record label, but he was making a whole lot of money as an independent.
I know that's
and
always the excuse, always the excuse with the money. But I quit that last time, and CBS owed me $28 million. I quit a number of times on that show. I said, I quit. I don't have to put up with this. And meanwhile, you come over here, I'm kicking your ass personally. And you can call the goddamn police all you want, but I know you're not going to because you don't want a scandal to come out. Now, bring your ass over here. I'm putting my foot in your behind. Oh, excuse me. I forgot. Knowing your proclivities, you might enjoy that little rough trade.
But I mean, that's tough talk. I know I had a mentor of mine, or Jake, I call him. He said, nobody dies a natural death in showbiz. And he worked at Stax, worked with Sammy Davis Jr. and all these people. He was telling me these stories about people, like even the Booker T and the MG's drummer, Al Jackson Jr. He said that everybody knew who actually did that to Al Jackson Jr. He was found dead, legend of a home invasion in his home. But like he said, nobody dies a natural death in showbiz.
Well, look at the boy you just
Young Dolph
mentioned.
Yeah.
With the one eye, the glass eye.
The guy with the glass eye?
Yeah.
Oh, Sammy Davis.
Sammy Davis.
Smokey, as Frank Sinatra would call him.
Sam, the word I got from the people that provided set security, and also with my connections with the bodyguard industry and that thing, the word was that white Jewish wife of his, there was a certain person in a certain organization that liked her, and he was going to kill Sammy. So Frank Sinatra intervened, and they gave him a choice: give up a hand or something else. So he gave up an eye so he could keep breathing. See, that stuff happened.
I heard, my friend who's deceased, he told me almost a similar story like that, but he said it was like because Frank got mad because he had thing for Ava Gardner.
Well,
and they knocked his eye out. They said it was a car accident, but it really, like you said, them goombas, the mob guys.
Yeah, well, this
made him off. He couldn't
Frank
refuse.
Intervened to keep him from
Yeah, but
being
like
killed.
it wasn't a car accident because y'all keep on y'all tell basically it was not the car accident story. That was like
No,
a cover story.
that was a cover
What
story.
y'all telling me.
You're gonna give up something if you want to keep breathing.
Yeah, but the industry though, you got to make deals. Like I look at all music
Well,
having
let
some
me put it
demonic
this way.
quality
I
to
won't
it.
mention his name because he may still be breathing. But back in the 60s, we heard a rumor going around the black student circuit. You know, we were out in L.A. That when Berry Gordy came to town, he got visited. They pistol whipped him, and some people were getting 15% off the top from everything Motown brought in. Well, years later, after I got this show, one of my neighbors and I was sitting around drinking a little whiskey, and he's a rough white guy. Boy, that man was not somebody to mess with. And he was talking about he had his boys go by, and he accompanied them, and they whipped up on Berry Gordy, and he got 15% off the top of everything Motown made. And
And
matter
he
of
told you
fact,
that.
he
Your neighbor
talked
told you
about the
that.
Jackson Five.
Yeah.
I went to the first Watch Festival after the riot, 66, and they had a talent contest. And the agreement is that Motown was going to give a recording contract to whoever the winner was. The Jackson Five did not win. I was there. They came in fourth place. There was a group, I don't remember who got third, but second was a group kind of like the Temptations. And in first place was a woman kind of looked like a better looking Aretha Franklin. But she sang like her. Well, my neighbor told me that even though that was what was in the LA Times the day after, they went and they made their arrangements. He said they wanted a boy band. So they said, you're going to pick this group, the Jackson Five. So everybody was concerned about, wait a minute, didn't that woman win? And these guys with that group come in second. Who are these folk? And the Times put a retraction, said we made a mistake. The winner of the contest was a group of young kids known as the Jackson Five.
Oh, now that's interesting. So, like I
Yeah,
said, I know.
it's
Yeah.
about love. The music, the sounds, like I said, I went on Riff, the new thing. Riff, I mean, I'm just sitting there trying to get into this meeting. And the first thing somebody's talking about, they got bees, and he ain't gonna have no bee unless they eat pea. And and then they got talking the N word a lot, more the B word a lot. There was a whole bunch of pain being expressed in these sounds, and uh, self-hate and dysfunction. Man, I just said, wow, that's awful.
So you think like that the rappers like Young Dolph are to blame for the music they creating the reality through their music? So you don't blame the music?
No, it's a collective thing. When I was sitting on the bench, who did I blame? The drug dealer, the junkie, the system, his mama, the police department, the politicians, the exploitation of the whole thing, the circumstances of how he'd been let down in the educational system. He'd been let down from lack of parenting, and he let himself down. See, I found out that when you have such things, let's just take drugs. It's not about trying to get high. It's about trying to die. The people who become junkies, they hate themselves, but they don't have the balls to pop a cap on their own heads. So drugs are a form of socially acceptable suicide. I've told this on your thing before. Oh, did you hear about poor Alan? Oh, what happened? Oh, I heard something tragic went on. Yes, he was talking about he had no purpose in life. And oh my God, he just jumped out of the 17th floor of his father's office building. Oh no, is that what happened? Well, the way we do it, man, we was all over Stomp's house, man. Stomp's place, man. We had some fire smoke up in there. We was hitting that glass dick, man. Dude fell to the ground, man. Spit foam was coming all out his mouth. Heels was kicking. Eyes done rolled up in the top of his head, man. Soon as we cleaned that shit up, man, we did 911. But by the time they got him to the emergency room, man, dude's heart done bust out, man. Man, cold-blooded shit, man. Hope his mama don't freak. Ain't that the second one she done lost this year? See, that's socially acceptable suicide. You can blame the drugs. Oh, drugs have claimed another victim in South Memphis. Neighbors complained about foul odors, etc., etc. Police on entry found the body of blah, 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 blah. You know, and that's what a lot of this violence is. You're not trying to, worry about getting dissed. You just hate yourself. You don't have the nerve to pop the cap on yourself. So you will provoke anybody doing anything to anybody, hoping that anybody will do you the personal favor of taking your miserable, sorry-ass life.
It's like suicide by cop, for example.
Suicide by cop is a form. Suicide by neighbor. Suicide by drive-by. See, I had set up something no other judge was doing. I took advantage of something I'd lobbied to get put into Tennessee law back in 1988. It allowed the judge sentencing anybody to have a psychiatric evaluation done, where the people that were doing those psychic evaluations weren't worth shit anyway to begin with. So I put together a team, conscientious team. And we'd come back with 35, 40-page detailed analysis of the defendant and what was going on inside his head. Ordinarily, what I would have gotten if I hadn't put it together was 3 handwritten lines of junk. But we started noticing that a lot of the violence was driven by suicidal ideation. Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather, talked about it. And in the movie, the first one where this hitman, Luca Brasi, shows up at the wedding, and the mafia is scared of him. The only one that will deal with him is the old Don Corleone. And there is a scene in the book where the old Don is talking to Michael before the old guy dies. And he said, you need to find you a Luca. Luca hates his own guts, but he's scared to kill himself. But he will kill anybody for any pretext on the hope that that person will do him the favor of taking his life. And by the way, if he gets caught and he gets the chair, he won't squeal because the chair is exactly what he wants. He wants to die. So find you a Luca. He'll do anything for me because I'm the only person he doesn't want to be the one that kills him. Only 2 times I ever had a disruption in my court. On 2 occasions where the DA's office announced that they were not seeking the death penalty and the defendant went off. What the hell do you think I killed this fool for? Kill me. Send me to the pen. I'll kill me some MFs up there. They gonna kill me. I ain't doing no time. Wow. See, so drugs and violence in our neighborhoods are driven to a great extent by the desire to commit suicide. It's equivalent of suicide by cop, suicide by drug. They know it's gonna kill them. That's why they do it.
Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor.
Law firms will take this as a retainer.
What? It must be a law firm where they hungry as hell. Now you gonna help me with this parole I'm dealing with?